Action fanatics, welcome to a very special edition of the Bulletproof Podcast. I am your host, Chris the Brain. Joining me, Chad Cruz and Ryan Campbell. It's the video edition of the Bulletproof Podcast, all as a part of the second annual Geekscape Holiday Livestream-tacular. And you know what? This is a big benefit, guys, and it is benefiting big brothers and big sisters. We're in the in wrestling terms, either the curtain jerking spot or, if we want to look at it more optimistically, the hey, follow that spot.
That's right.
You follow this, everybody else, all other 14 hours.
Right. Somebody's going to get the crowd fired up, get the crowd ready to roll.
It's all about opportunity.
Get them loosening them wallets a little bit.
Yeah, you get the crowd popped. You get them excited. You get them prepared for like what would you say, 14 hours?
15 hours.
15 hours of geek like just things to listen to. I mean, people are going to go crazy. After this first hour, I think that they're going to gain, I don't know, thousands of viewers maybe. Hundreds of thousands.
Yeah. After this, yes.
There'll
be a ton.
Like right after we're done.
And obviously we encourage everyone who can to donate to the Big Brothers and Big Sisters, and there'll be information, I'm sure, on the screen here. Our producer Matt will probably have taken care of all of that. We're just the talent on this thing, or
that's right,
the best talent. So yeah, this is it. We're in the opening spot here, and you know what? It is again the holiday season. That's why we're doing this special. That's why we're doing a benefit. I mean, it's a season of giving, and it's also, though, in action movie context, Die Hard season.
Yeah. It's the question that gets asked every year around this time. Is Die Hard a Christmas movie? And I think that we've all answered it at one point or another. And we have said that, yes, absolutely, it is a Christmas movie. And not only is it a Christmas movie, it's probably the best Christmas movie. And over the years, I mean, it's been out 30 plus years now. It has spawned so many excellent knockoffs, and we just can't stop talking about them.
Yeah, I think that's the focus of what we're looking at today, is not just how influential it was and that Christmas is kind of what brings it all up, but just how genre defining. There's a whole subgenre of action, all from this one movie. And I mean, we've done deeper dives before on podcasts about just Die Hard or the sequels and stuff like that, but not enough can be said for how it just redefined the action genre and kind of a format that's still going on to today.
Absolutely. So yeah, this is it. Our part of the second annual Geekscape Holiday Livestream-tacular. We're going to talk about Die Hard clones. And, let's say it first. The best.
I want my Clone Wars shirt just for that.
Amazing.
Right. That's brilliant.
You see, that's the type of detail you're going to get with some people. That is one of the best things you've done, Ryan Campbell.
Yes.
I think since you've been a part of this
I try.
Podcast, this website, Bulletproof Action.
We go video. I go the extra mile.
That's what I like.
My shirt is red, I like. By the way,
your shirt is red. I've got the Bulletproof Podcast T-shirt on. I got the Christmas behind me. You've got American Ninja behind you. You got Boba Fett because you're our
the clone.
Star. He is also.
Hey.
Yes. So here we go.
Spoiler alert.
I mean, this is again. I'm like in heaven right now because I'm a stickler for the details sometimes, and these are great details. But let's get into it.
That's right.
Die Hard clones. Number one, before this one's not on the list that we've kind of put together, but let's say
we're already going off list.
Exactly. Let's say this, and we did a whole episode on this one. The best Die Hard clone of them all was Die Hard 2.
Well, it's an offspring of Die Hard. I don't know if it's a clone. I mean, it is essentially a movie
it's repeating the scenario.
It's the same
scenario. Right.
Different location, different environment, new villains. Everything is pretty much exactly the same. All these villains have, similar motivations, and they're all very violent, and all of the things are there from the first film. But I see it more of as like, this is a child of Die Hard, just like the other Die Hards. It's a sequel, of course, but it doesn't like try to replace the format. It just is the same. It just continues on the legacy.
It's just how does the same shit happen to the same guy twice?
He's unlucky.
And it's allowed to. I mean, it's unspawned.
Oh yeah, if anyone's going to be able to be a clone of Die
Right.
Hard, it would be one of its sequels.
Do we need
Yeah.
to take a minute and lay out what we think is the criteria to make something a Die Hard clone?
I
mean,
think
it doesn't necessarily have to hit every single mark, but what are some of like the main ones for you guys?
I think if we're before we get into it, obviously you have to be there has to be a elaborate plan of some sort by the bad guys
Okay.
that has every little detail. Again, we're talking details, and I love them. Every little detail figured out. But then there's a fly in the ointment. So you need a well-laid plan by the villains and a fly in the ointment. That's, I think, the biggest piece of it.
I think one of mine is definitely the events need to take place within like one day, or there's no cutaways. Like we start the movie at the right at the start of the shenanigans, and we pretty much go through. There's not like multiple days or anything like that. Like we pretty much feel like we spend 2.5 hours or whatever, and that whole event takes place within the time that we're watching the movie. I think that's a big one for me, because I like that format.
Yeah, I think that the location is big. Like the time, like you said, one single day or 4 hours or whatever, and the location. Are we going to put Die Hard is it takes place in a building, in the Nakatomi building. So you've got it all in one singular location, even though it's different rooms and such, but it's one building. So as we see throughout these Die Hard clones, they're all essentially Die Hard at a different location. But I think that, like Brain was saying, an elaborate plan by a diverse group of villains. You've got a lone hero, and that may change, as we go over these clones. There may be some of these films we talk about where it's not just one hero, but the lone hero stuck in a singular location against the wall who just won't die. And that's kind of my criteria.
Yeah, I think we covered it. So let's get into it. Our favorite Die Hard clones, and I will start us off, and it's Bulletproof Action. And, if we had the 4 pillars of Bulletproof Action.
Me?
All right. I'm talking about the action
the bus. You walk into the lobbies of Bulletproof Action. Okay.
Right.
It's like, it's very, the whole building's 80s looking anyway already.
Right.
But there are 4 statues of well-cut marble that are positioned around the room.
Yeah. Not you, Chad.
I'm trying to create a picture.
Gotcha.
I'm talking about the one and the only Jean-Claude Van Damme. And I think this is without a doubt.
The butt cheeks on his statue, by the way.
Oh yeah,
exquisite.
I would
They
be
really
so
are.
polished, so polished.
That's right.
The sheen.
Yeah, you could see your face in them. What? Wait a minute. So anyway, yeah, my favorite Die Hard clone, released December 22nd, 1995. Sudden Death. It is Die Hard at a hockey arena, and
Yes.
it is awesome. Jean-Claude Van Damme. He's a firefighter. So this one that also has to ring very close to your heart, Chad Cruz.
Yeah, it was Fire Marshal. Is that what he was? I believe.
He was a firefighter. They start the movie
Yeah.
off. He has a traumatic experience. A child dies in the fire. He
Yeah.
couldn't save him.
Right.
So he stays kind of in the fire game, but he's not an active firefighter. He's kind of the guy, the
Right.
fireman, checking
He's doing
code.
inspections, right?
Right.
There's nothing less exciting than doing fire inspections. I will tell you that. But it gives us a perfect opportunity to have a character who has demons, if you will,
Right.
and we can put him in a position to where it's just another day at the office kind of situation. He's not there doing inspections; he's there with his kids, but he has these demons, and he has something to look back upon when he's thrust into action. So, I mean, it makes the character that much more likable too, as well.
And Ryan, you brought it up, Ryan. These movies have to have a time frame, and this is a specific game of the Stanley Cup playoff. I think it's the final game, and so we already have that. So you have the game clock that kind of goes along with what Jean-Claude's character has to do throughout the movie, and that just that sense of urgency is there right from the start.
Right.
Oh yeah, and one aspect of it too, and for most of the movie, the idea that the people that are in danger have no idea what's going on.
Right.
I think that gives another element to this one that I think is really cool. Is the idea that you could be at a hockey game, having the time of your life, having that moment, drinking a few beers, having fun, and you don't even know that behind the scenes Jean-Claude Van Damme is trying to save you from being blown up. Like I remember watching that movie as a kid. A lot of these, as I was younger, I would walk in the room and my dad may be watching them or they're on the TV. And I remember thinking that this one was just like the concept and the setting was just super cool.
Well, yeah, I mean, you think about it, like the stakes, how much higher they were than a Die Hard. Like there was 30 some people at the Christmas party.
Mm-hmm.
There's like 15,000 at this hockey arena. So it's like,
and not to mention the politicians and his own children. You know what I mean? If his kids aren't there, it doesn't have that same feeling to it. So, you throw his young children in there and they even get, abducted at some point themselves. So it's like everything is kind of set up, not for him to escape with his kids, but for him to be the hero, to become the hero. So
yeah, his daughter is in the thick of it. You mentioned the politicians. Raymond J. Barry plays the vice president, and he's basically the big target. But you have I think the mayor of Pittsburgh is there, and other dignitaries. And let's talk about the baddie in this one, Powers Booth. What an amazing actor. Powers Booth, whether he's a villain or a hero, Chad, he always delivers.
He always brings it. And he's one of those guys who you don't really remember him from one singular film. He's not a guy who had his own, he didn't have like his own 6-film series or something like that. Right. But you remember him when you see him, like, oh yeah, he was great in this. He was great in that. He was good in this. Like, cause every time he was on screen, he essentially stole the scene. So
yeah.
And he does it. And again, in this one, and this is another film where Jean-Claude Van Damme gets lucky in the way that he always had great villains to work against. So it's perfect for him.
Yeah. Yeah. And this one, Ryan, when you mentioned being a kid and kind of walking in when your dad's this one is one of the more family friendly Jean-Claude Van Damme movies, minus all the killing, but you don't have the usual.
What's a few killing among friends,
You don't have the usual ass cheeks. You don't have the romance because there's really no time for romance when you have a situation like this. And that's, I think, that's another common thing in the Die Hard clone. There's no time for love, Dr. Jones. Basically, you got to get to it. You're under the gun there. And let's talk about some of the. I think probably one of the most memorable, or two of the most memorable scenes. Number one, Jean-Claude Van Damme versus Icy the Mascot.
Yes, yeah, of course.
Yep, that always stuck out to me.
And then, of course, where Van Damme finds himself in the goalie box, unwittingly and sweating bullets. Probably the most nervous. He's disarming bombs. I don't think he was more afraid than when he was on that ice, and could have cost the team the game. But he came through.
And those splits never made more sense than he's got the flexibility to be a goalie because of those splits.
Probably,
it's definitely one of those films that I wish I could be like in the meeting room when they pitch the film, or they're like, all right, guys, we got this terrorist plot that's happening during a hockey game, and our hero ends up in the goalie net. Like, it's like, I know the whole pitch meeting thing has kind of killed that ran that into the ground, but I just would love to be a fly on the wall when they were okaying and greenlighting that one.
And just a little fun fact to link sudden death to my hometown of Cleveland. It was actually the Cleveland Lumberjacks who played the Pittsburgh Penguins. They were like a
somewhere someone is going to be like at their local bar on a trivia night, and that question is going to get asked, and they're going to know it because they listen to this podcast.
Absolutely. So you're welcome.
We just got you a free drink or like a
free appetizer,
a voucher or something. Yeah.
We're here to serve. All right, Chad Cruz, your favorite Die Hard clone. Let's get to it.
Yeah. And this was a tough one because there are so many great ones, but I had to go with a little film released October 9th, 1992. It is called Under Siege.
Under Siege. The one thing I remember about this is a cake scene. And I really can't remember much else.
Yeah.
And I don't know why.
It's strange how that happens, especially when you watch it when you're, in those formative years, as I was. I was probably, 9 or so when I saw it for the first time.
I'm sure what was my age? Give it out.
28, probably 29.
Okay,
but
that might actually be
that's
close.
probably more accurate.
That's
Might be
true.
close.
But yeah, Under Siege. another film-
Usually I'm about 56 and it's 1983. So
yeah,
I
it's true.
appreciate that. I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
hey, it's Christmas time, right?
Thank you, sir.
I'm trying to help you out here. So Under Siege kind of adopts that same format from Die Hard for me because it stays with that singular location. It stays on a submarine. We have not a lone hero, but he starts the film as a lone hero who is also kind of this absolute ultimate badass who is almost retired from being a badass. You know, he's a chef now. He was a Navy SEAL. Now he's a chef, much like Van Damme was a firefighter who became a fire marshal. So he's kind of like been out of the game for a minute, but he's still got all his own skills. They're all the old tricks that he had. So we got him there. We got amazing villains. I mean, the movie really has kind of every piece that you're looking for in an action film. And it's probably, I don't know, it's definitely a top 20 film for me all time. So I had to put it as my number one Die Hard clone.
And I would have to say, I mean, definitely box office wise, but I just think in general, probably Steven Seagal's greatest film.
Yeah, I think definitely. I as someone who missed Steven Seagal's kind of prime, and by the time I started kind of watching more of his films, he was a little bit already a character of himself into kind of what we have now. But I remember actually the sequel of Under Siege, maybe the Under Siege on a Train. I remember that one more vividly than the original, but that was, for me, that was like when he was peak, who Steven Seagal was, as while some of those actors we have here found new life and stayed relevant. Steven's kind of, his story's been a little bit different, but that was like his prime.
Yeah. And he, again, able to work against, Gary Busey, Tommy Lee Jones. Like, there are so many great actors in this film that work opposite him. And you mentioned the Erica Eleniak scene where she comes out of the cake.
Yes.
She's a Playboy playmate at the time and in the film. And I mean, there were so many eyes glued to the scene there. I mean, I know this is a charity benefit program, but
right.
Wow. Let's just leave it at that. It's an incredible scene, and the way that her character plays off of Steven Seagal, I think it's just remarkable. So, and you mentioned Under Siege 2. It probably feels more like a Die Hard clone just because it's all on a train, and there's less of like a cast of characters working with Steven Seagal's character. So it really feels like a lone kind of soldier against all the bad guys.
Yeah, he's a man on his own in that one.
Yeah. So that one feels like more of a clone, but it's definitely not as good as the original. All
right. Well, Ryan Campbell, you had a little one kind of outside the box. Like, this is not one that came into my mind. I don't even know if I knew this movie existed. And I know, Chad, you were a little shocked when you saw this one on the list.
Yeah. And this, I wouldn't say this is my favorite, but this is just one that was on my list, and we got it here on our list. But and it was one that, like, I'm gonna be perfectly honest, I had to kind of do some Google searching to find out what the name of it was. But when we thought about I had to think like, oh yeah, what's that movie where Guy Pearce is pretty much Die Hard on a space station, and it's like a prison? And I found it. It was Lockout. It came out April 13th of 2012. And yes, Guy Pearce is like it's a little bit different from the Die Hard, is that he actually goes into the situation willingly. He doesn't kind of find himself in there, but he's kind of forced into it. He's got some debts to pay, or he's got some things. And if he does this one solid for the president, as his daughter is now trapped in this, space station, Ultramax prison.
Yeah.
Then the slate is wiped clean. So he goes in by himself, no help. And essentially this prison is broken out into all hell, and he has to rescue the president's daughter. So some elements are very Die Hard-esque. Some I got to stretch it a little bit. But I wanted to go off the books as we were doing like throwing a lot of them out there. And that was one that, again, I really enjoyed the movie. And I feel like it was ahead of, we've done Die Hard in Space like 10 or 12 times now. And I feel like it was like one of the first ones to kind of play with that concept. And I'm the sci-fi nerd, so I just remember like really digging that movie. I don't even think I was when I first saw it, I'm not even sure I was writing for the site yet, but if I did the review, I'll have to go look. But it it was definitely one that stuck out to me. I don't even know how I came across watching it back when it came out, but I thought it was really cool. As soon as I started thinking of Die Hard clones, that just popped in my head, so I had to find it.
You definitely did not write about it. So feel free anytime.
All right, I'm going to have to go back and do that one.
If you do a rewatch, we'll always accept a great review or whatever you do. I'm sorry. Anyway, thank you.
Observations?
Chad, Cruz, you have anything to say about Lockout? Because I've never seen it. I'm locked out of this one.
Lockout, I mean, it absolutely fits the criteria for this episode. It's got that lone guy in space at the space penitentiary, and he's super badass. Guy Pearce is awesome in it. I think by far that's my favorite thing about the film is Guy Pearce, because he plays the role so well. My only problem, and if you read my article, I think I've written about it at least one time, but if you read it, is I'm pretty sure Luc Besson got sued for this movie because John Carpenter escaped from New York. This film is like a complete scene for scene remake of Escape from New York. I mean, you got like this criminal dude, the government sends him into space instead of New York. So it's like so similar. I think Luc Besson actually got sued for it, but for our purposes, it fits perfectly with the Die Hard clone. And I think it's a great pick. I didn't even think about it until Brain had sent me the list, and I said, oh yeah, that would work.
And I have no idea why it was literally one of the first ones to pop in my head, but it was.
And it's also got some awesome villains in it. I can't remember who all in it.
It's got some good kills in it too. Yeah. Some pretty creative kills.
It was Peter.
So if you haven't checked it out, it's worth checking out.
One of the villains.
Yes, the guy who Russian, German, whatever he is, he's always playing like the Russian dudes. Yeah, he's awesome in it. And there's a couple Irish guys that play some other criminals in it that are super good.
Maggie Grace plays the president's daughter.
Yep.
So it's got some names in it. So it's good.
All right. Well, I may have to track that one down since I'm the only one here who hasn't seen it. But I've got one.
That's rare. We talk about a movie on here that you haven't seen. So that's a positive.
That's that happened last year on when we did the first annual Geekscape holiday live stream tacular, and I learned all about The Long Kiss Goodnight.
Yeah,
and how I needed to see it, and I watched it, and we just actually covered that on our previous episode. So check out the archives, people. Bulletproof Podcast. I've got one that I don't think either of you guys have seen, but it's definitely on my list. This one came out October 11th, 1991, The Taking of Beverly Hills.
Never seen it.
Nope.
So this one is a very interesting one. This is one of those ones that I remember like seeing at the video store and never really doing anything about it. It was like, okay, whatever. I want to, because it's Ken Wall is the star, and I think he's kind of maybe an unsung hero. He's done a lot of action stuff, when he was acting, he's kind of gotten away from that. But in the 80s, probably best known for when he got on TV on Wise Guy. But yeah, it's got Ken Wall, Matt Frewer, who people of the 80s will remember as Max Headroom.
Okay.
And the villain, Robert Davi. Okay.
Classic.
So basically the gist of this one is, Robert Davi has these crooked cops, and they're all they have this tanker truck, have an accident, and there's a big gas leak or chemical leak out of this, so they got to evacuate Beverly Hills because they've got some painting they want to steal or some big thing. So what they don't realize is our star quarterback football player was in one of the houses, and they thought they cleared all the houses, but he's there.
The fly in the ointment.
He's the fly in the ointment. Matt Frewer was part of this whole conspiracy, but he has a come to Jesus moment where he's like, oh, wait a minute, I didn't sign up for all of this. So he kind of becomes the sidekick. You got Branscombe Richmond in this thing, who we've seen in a bazillion movies.
Yeah.
But this is, I think, perhaps his biggest role because he's like one of the main bad guys. He's in this tank thing. They're rolling through buildings and houses and fences, and I think it ends up in a swimming pool. It's just chaotic. I mean, it's obviously a bigger, it's not just Nakatomi Plaza. It's basically all of Beverly Hills. They're just running roughshod through. And the thing that got me, again, because I don't remember hearing about it being in the theaters. So it has like quite a soundtrack to it, like an epic soundtrack. And when I say epic soundtrack, I'm talking epic. Faith No More. You got Janet Jackson in there. You got like mainstream artists. Tony, for heaven's sake. They were awesome back in the day. And I'm like, wait a minute. to me, this was more like a PM Entertainment level movie, and PM
Yeah, it feels
Entertainment
that
level
way.
movies did not have the amount of carnage this thing had, or this like licensed music, but it was just one of those movies that was like Hollywood politics, and it got shuffled around. And I think it actually was supposed to come out earlier to capitalize on Die Hard coming, from just get like it would have been one of the first to get that Die Hard clone, but it just sat on a shelf somewhere, and I think may have changed hands in between. So it's
What
probably why a lot of people don't know about it.
when you mentioned it to me, I was thinking of the Frank Stallone movie. No, can you remind me what that one is?
I think that one is like Terror in Beverly Hills.
Okay, that was my thought in my head because I've seen enough of that to know that it ain't my jam.
Right.
And I thought that's what you were talking about. I'm like, oh yeah, great, getting Frank Stallone on here somehow, whatever you got to do. But yeah, so you really sold it. You sold me on this film. I've never seen it, so that sounds great.
Yeah, and it is on Blu-ray, so maybe want to ask Santa for it.
It's in the cycle.
Yeah,
it hasn't been locked in an archive somewhere.
Yeah, it's on. It may still be on. I think I originally saw it on YouTube, so it might still be there if it hasn't been taken down. But yeah,
or it's been shuffled around to either Tubi or IMDb TV or somewhere for free.
So I am that was like I was sold on it. Like again, it took me by surprise, and so if you've never seen The Taking of Beverly Hills, people, track it down. It's worth a watch for sure.
Right, and I just mentioned I just mentioned Frank Stallone, and now I want to talk about his brother. A little more famous brother.
Just a bit.
I'm talking about Sylvester Stallone and one of my favorite films of his that isn't Rocky or Rambo, and that is Cliffhanger.
Yeah, so that was on my list too.
Came out. Is it really? So that's perfect. Yeah. It's a great Die Hard clone, a Die Hard knockoff, however you want to put it. And it stars just an amazing cast. You got John Lithgow, you got Michael Rooker, Janine Turner, who I think is absolutely adorable in this film. I know I've written about her a couple of times.
Oh, we've talked about we've talked about her when we did our Stallone countdown. Yeah.
Yes, that's true. She was on, what was that, Northern Exposure, that television show. Ryan, you probably not seen that one.
I remember.
Do you remember that one? So so that this thing's got an amazing cast. Just the environment, the visuals, the landscape is incredible. And much like the Beverly Hills film, it doesn't take place in one central location, but you could just say Die Hard on a mountain and you'd be accurate.
I also think John Lithgow in this is probably maybe the closest we have to Hans Gruber. I mean, he's pretty darn close to Hans Gruber in this. Yeah. Just the way that he operates and the way he treats it. He's got his squad of cronies and everything and his master plan. And in the end, it's really just all kind of a theft kind of thing. But this is just one of those, like, it's very tense. I don't know if it's just the way people are with heights or cliff or rock climbing or just the whole thing. And I think, it's definitely one of my favorite Stallone films because it's just so different than kind of what he was doing at the time. But
I think you get sucked in from the very beginning. Like you said, there's the tension that comes with being so high up and the way that they filmed. Rennie Harlan made this one as well. The way they filmed with the camera angles and stuff. I mean, there are moments where you're like, holy shit, they're going to fall off this mountain. And there's also, the crazy stunt with the plane. And you also have kind of the always present fear of freezing to death because at different times throughout the film, Stallone loses his jacket. And that always kind of reminded me of John McClane not having his shoes. He's walking across ice or walking across glass and his feet are all busted up. And now you have Stallone just in a t-shirt climbing a freaking mountain. So it was always kind of a similar feel to me from that.
Like film. That nothing can go right for this guy. Can he just catch a break?
And that's how, the best clones, I think, of Die Hard get it right in the way that anything that could go wrong goes wrong in the film. And it's just so, the right guy, wrong place, wrong time, he just kind of gets stuck in the spot. And he's the only person who's got a miserable enough life that he can actually fix the stuff. So.
Also, I know we've talked about this before when we've done the countdown, but Michael Rourke is almost insufferable in this film. I just think of the very end of the movie where he's just screaming at the top of his lungs for nonstop. You're like, dude, chill out, calm down.
Yeah, get him a lozenge.
Isn't there a famous press slam moment in this movie?
Yeah, there is. That's when he's fighting against Leon in the in the caves.
Leon.
He's fucking that guy up in the caves. He just gives him the old gorilla press slam. right into the giant.
Stalactites.
There you go.
Which one goes up and which one goes down? I don't remember.
It's a pointy thing, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And he jams them up into that. Which I will say that I've thought for the last 10 years or so, maybe 12 years, that I had the record for the highest gorilla press slam in the world. And I have picture evidence of this as well, of me gorilla pressing a person on top of Pikes Peak, which is over 14,000 feet high. But I know I was over 14,000 feet high. I don't know if Stallone filmed that scene over 14,000 feet high. So I may still have the record. I should call Guinness.
Yeah, we're gonna have to consult with Guinness on this.
Yeah.
You should tweet the picture to Stallone, and maybe he'll respond to you.
You think so?
It's worth a try.
I doubt it.
It's worth a try. All right, well, Ryan Campbell, another one on your list.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about Die Hard on a train. We've talked about on in an airport. We've talked about on a mountain. Let's take this thing to the White House. And that's going to be with Gerard Butler and Olympus Has Fallen, March 22nd, 2013. Fits all the criteria. It's in the People's House. Gerard Butler, ex Secret Service, and again, perfect wrong place at the wrong time. Not meant to be there that day. I'm not even supposed to be working today, but and then it all just goes south. Very elaborate plan from terrorist organization, but it's all happened in the White House. Definitely superior to
White House
Down.
White House Down. Yep. Very much superior to that. Much better. Didn't have Jamie Foxx or Channing Tatum, but I'll take Gerard Butler any day in that film. But yep, really good. One of the kind of weirdest castings for a president in Aaron Eckhart, but it worked. I really enjoyed the film, though. The action, the explosions. I mean, it's definitely what you have to have in a Die Hard. There has to be in a Die Hard close those moments where you're looking on screen and things are exploding. It's so loud, and you're just like, holy crap, there's a lot of stuff blowing up. And this does it. That house is a wreck by the time it's over.
Yeah, it never hurts to have Morgan Freeman in your movie either.
Yeah.
He brings some gravitas. And you brought it up, too, the superior to White House Down. Yeah, this is one of those, every once in a while in Hollywood, we get these movies
they have a name for it
that come out at the same time. And you have, when Menachem and Yoram had their split, we had dueling Lambada movies. But years before that, 1984 to be exact, we had breakdancing movies.
It must Beat Street.
Breakin' and Beat Street were both coming out. But Menachem Golan, as Ryan just said, famously said, we must beat Beat Street. And in fact, Cannon got their movie out first. And in fact, Cannon drew more at the box office. So much that by the end of the year, Breakin' 2 Electric Boogaloo was out. Oh,
if he doesn't get that out before Beat Street, do we never get Breakin' 2 Electric Boogaloo?
We probably wouldn't have.
That is the darkest timeline right there.
I don't want to think about it. But yeah, I remember, and you know what? It was kind of convenient because it was around Christmas time. I remember being on Christmas break, going to see Electric Boogaloo, my own one and only Cannon movie that I saw in the theater, which is ridiculous and crazy at the same time. But I love it. But
there could probably be some fan fiction written out there for, the alternate timeline where Beat Street comes out first. You always get like what if the Confederacy won the Civil War? Like, what if Beat Street had come out 3 weeks early? Like, oh my God.
There's going to be a Man in the High Castle like Hulu series about if Beat Street had came out first.
Another one we really could talk about, 1986. We had Iron Eagle and Top Gun.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they kind of got Iron. They weren't too close. It was like beginning in the middle of the year, but still. Yeah.
We could do a whole podcast on those. Armageddon and Deep Impact and,
Yeah.
I'd say there's a reason that those happen. there's probably someone's ear to the door on certain studios.
Scripts, writers get kicked off of projects, scripts get leaked, things get taken to other studios. And we had a Bug's Life and Ants came out the same year. That was that's a popular one too. But yeah, it happens quite often.
There's Avengers and Ass Avengers.
That's a different kind of thing, but yes.
Yeah, I don't know if the movies you're talking about, or even the Asylum movies, really count as. I think they're
That's
doing
true.
that on purpose. It's not just it's not a competition. It's like, oh, that's doing well, or we expect that to do well. Let's
Yeah.
have the Assvengers.
Yeah. Well, there's like, if you go on Tubi, there's probably 17 different Thor movies. And
Right.
None of them are Marvel films. You know what I mean? They're
Some
like,
with
ours is
Richard.
based on the Norse god Thor, not the comic book guy.
Or they clearly try to make like the DVD cover look like it's the same thing.
Yeah, the one with Richard Grieco as Loki is not part of the MCU. Just so you know.
No way.
He is not a Loki variant.
Richard Grieco. My God. I can't think of him without thinking of Night the Roxbury.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Anything you want to add about Olympus Has Fallen, Chad?
Oh, I love it. I think it's a great movie. I love the location of it. I think that, we've seen Die Hard in every possible place, planes, trains, automobiles, submarines and malls and schools and everything. And why not put it at the White House, the place with the maximum amount of security possible. And boom, it just drops like that. So it's an awesome, awesome film. Gerard Butler kind of placed himself into that upper echelon of kind of present day action stars, I think.
He rode that one for a while after that.
He may still be writing. I don't know, like those and Den of Thieves, like all these movies that he's done since then. I think that they all kind of coast off of that, that momentum that he built with this series. So yeah, I think it's an awesome film.
And and another proof that this one's better than White House Down. I don't know if I got to this before. I know I did. It's continued. It's become a franchise. Yeah. So, I mean, that tells you the success. We didn't have White House Down again or anything.
Also,
the White House is still down. Yeah.
Right. And there's no, one of the biggest problems with White House Down is the kid, right? You put a kid in your movie and you're like, oh, it's hard for that to work in a hardcore action film where people's heads are just getting exploded everywhere. And they put the kid in, it's super annoying and you can't stand her. Olympus Has Fallen. There's no kid. There's only destruction.
Only destruction indeed. Chad Cruz, this is one when, I wasn't even thinking about it. And then you brought this one up. What a great one.
Yeah, this is a great one. April 26th, 1991. Toy Soldiers. It doesn't quite fit the criteria that I laid out earlier with the lone hero, but it fits enough that I'm going to slide it into this episode with the Die Hard clones. You've got Sean Astin, who was made famous in Rudy, and then later, of course, Lord of the Rings. Louis Gossett Jr. I mean, he's just
Chappie Sinclair himself.
He's just so incredible in this role as the principal. What's his?
Isn't he like the headmaster?
He's the headmaster of this private school. You've got Will Wheaton of Star Trek fame. It's a great film. It's Die Hard in a private school. How about that?
Yeah.
So you got the terrorists that take over the private school and they hold these rich kids, rich families' kids hostage, and they're looking to get some of their comrades in arms released from prison. And, you got explosives laced throughout the building. You've got snipers on the roof with RPGs. And it's just like, it's a perfect setup. There's awesome tension. They're teenagers too. So you're not expecting them to, bust out two Uzis and just go to town on everybody. So there's a different element there as well. So they have to use their guile and their teamwork. And it's so much fun.
Us 90s kids were obsessed with being like adolescents that could beat up adults.
Yeah.
We had like Three Ninjas and all these other films where we're like, I may be 65 pounds, but I could take out a giant thug.
And Sean Astin has never grown into an adult body.
No, he still hasn't.
He's grown out, not up.
It's true.
So, and I think that's the point, too. Like you said, it's not the lone person, but they're the underdogs. I mean, because they're teenagers going.
Since they're kids, if you pile them all together, they'd be like an adult, one adult.
Yeah.
So
teenagers going against like professional criminals, mercenaries. You wouldn't think they had a chance, but they do it. And I love Louis Gossett Jr. and everything I think I've ever seen him in. He's great here.
They do so well by him too, because he's not in the school, but he's in enough of the film where you never really miss him. So they find ways to kind of get his character back into the into the screen, onto the screen. And it's a really good movie. And it's one that a lot of people really don't talk about very much. It's not like it was like this huge blockbuster film or anything, but I think it's got
when I read it, my head first thought of Small Soldiers.
Small Soldiers.
When I read it, I was like, Small Soldiers, and I was like, no, wait, that's completely different.
Also a kick-ass movie, though.
It is a good movie, but I don't think it fits Die Hard.
No.
But yeah, I always thought like this could have, like Louis Gossett Jr. could have basically been Chappie Sinclair in this movie. Like he retired from the Air Force and he got a job as the headmaster at a private school. I would have much rather that have been Iron Eagle 2 than the Iron Eagle 2 that we actually got. To be honest with you. But yeah. And again, Andrew Divoff as the villain. I mean, that's probably his biggest.
Yeah.
He's another guy who's popped up and he'll do little parts here and there, but this was probably his biggest role, at least in the action world. I know he was in the Wishmaster movies in the horror genre, but
he was awesome in those too.
Yeah, he definitely was. But yeah, this was a big time for him to be the main villain, and he just has that. He just looks like a bad guy.
He looks like a bad guy.
One of those born to be bad types.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to our good friend Ty Singh. Pick up Born to Be Bad. Amazon.com. All right. Here's a good one. Ryan Campbell.
Yes, one of my favorites. One of the rare rated R films that we had on VHS in my house, so I watched it quite a bit. 1994, a young Sandra Bullock and Keanu Reeves, Die Hard on a bus. It's Speed.
Oh, this is a great one. If Keanu, this cemented Keanu as an action star, Chad. I mean, Point Break could have just been a one-off. Hey, you did pretty good. But plenty of people have had that. Oh yeah, he was in an action movie. But this is like, okay, this guy could do it. Keanu could be an action star.
Yeah, I think his early choices in his film career to kind of do other types of films put that into question, right? You put is he an action guy? It really put that into question because the 80s and the early 90s was the time for action movies. That was kind of peak action cinema. And the fact that he wasn't just knocking out action movie after Point Break, it really kind of put it into question. And then when Speed came out, I think all the stars aligned for him. Both you've got an amazing script, you've got the most perfect Die Hard kind of format, to follow. It's Die Hard on a bus, but they don't kind of pigeonhole themselves into that for the entirety of the film. They know when to leave and when to kind of push the elements. So yeah, I think as far as great heroes, great villains, great script, the score of the film is awesome. It might be the best movie on this list.
Yeah, I think I'd put it as my own number one. Like you said, Dennis Hopper just is giving it his all in this, that maniacal villain. There's a little bit more, there's a mystery to it. Trying to, figure out his motive. And as the police, I was trying to figure things out while the bus thing's going on. You got Jeff Daniels kind of running that whole thing. And again, a young Sandra Bullock, but I'd mentioned one of my criteria was the short time frame of events. This is probably one of the shortest ones that we get. I mean, it starts in the early morning and the movie's over by 10:30. The whole event takes place in 2 or 3 hours. But it's just, chock full of action. You got buses flying over freeways. I just really love this movie.
Yeah, and like you said, Sandra Bullock, this pretty much made her career. This was her career. She came back for the sequel. Nobody else did, but she did.
Right.
Dennis Hopper, I think, we talk about the great villains and how important they are to an action movie. The great villains believe they're justified in what they're doing. And he certainly, of all the villains maybe on this list, he, it's not just greed. It's he has a grudge and he's trying to make things right. So he feels 100% justified in what he is doing here and putting people's lives in danger so he can get what he wants.
And I think what's great about his arc as a character is we talk about that fly in the ointment, that Keanu's character is so annoying and ruining his plans so badly that by the end of the film, all that Dennis Hopper can think about is getting the money and getting the hell out of there. Kind of his initial, like you said, his initial plan. He wanted vengeance and he wanted to he had his vendetta against people.
Statement.
He wanted to make a statement. Mm-hmm. And then by the end, he's not even thinking about that. He's just trying to get his money and get the hell out of there because he's so just thrown off kilter by how awesome Keanu is and how well that him and Sandra Bullock have just ruined his plans.
Yeah,
so.
doesn't he use his retirement watch as
Yes.
part of the bomb? I mean, that's awesome. Again, the details, that little detail is like, this guy's a freaking mad genius, and that's exactly what you want your action villain to be. All right, guys, how about this one? Get Off My Plane became very famous after this movie hit theaters July 25, 1997. Air Force One, Harrison Ford. I mean, this guy is one of the biggest box office stars of them all.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And this one just added to it. He gets in on the Die Hard action, Ryan Campbell.
Yeah, I mean, it was somewhat of a weird role for him. Not that he doesn't do action like that, but this was more of like a grizzled action star, where he usually typically is played kind of like the loafy, not our stereotypical action guy, but trying to play the dual roles of the president and action star is a tough line to toe. But in true Harrison Ford fashion, he pulls it off in the movie and gets one of the most memorable lines in action movie history.
Right. Chad Cruz.
He's got to be one of the most respected movie politicians of all time. I mean, everything he does in the movie, you're like rooting for him and cheering for him. And he takes that, distrustful aura of politics, and he just makes it so cool. And like you said, he's got so many great one-liners in it, and it's just so many lines in general. And what do we have? Once again, we have an all-time great villain in Gary Oldman up against him, with a bunch of nameless terrorists that are definitely going to die. So if you put your lone hero in a situation where he's got to fight back, and you have an amazing villain, whether it's Alan Rickman or John Lithgow or Gary Oldman, like, you've already set them up for success. And I think this movie just kind of overachieves in a way. So yeah, classic Harrison Ford, one of his best.
Also a sign of an old times where we all just generally kind of rooted for the president. It was a different time back then.
Yeah. A little different. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was just about to say, I mean, if it was down to Harrison Ford and Aaron Eckhart running for president, Harrison Ford would get my vote, hands down.
I think he would get most people's votes. Yeah,
as long as he doesn't fly.
We could do it. We need to think about that when election season rolls around and do our election of like top action movie presidents.
I feel like because Kurt Russell, he wasn't an executive decision. Was he the president in that one, Chad? Or am I misremembering?
No, I don't think he was the president. I think he was one of the.
He was
one of the badasses in it.
Okay, all right. Well,
but
there you go.
Real life, we've had Clint Eastwood as a politician. Potentially in the next 8 years or so, we'll have Matthew McConaughey. So there's guys out there who are trying to throw their hat into the ring.
Your favorite, The Rock, is that's always a rumor.
Yeah, that's out there. Yeah, we'll see.
Arnold,
if it's early Rock career or late Rock career.
Arnold was the governor.
Jesse Ventura.
Ventura was the governor. Yeah. So yeah, it's happened before, people. It could happen. I mean, we had
Kane is the mayor.
Kane is the mayor of Knox County.
Oh yeah, there we go. I forgot about him.
There you go. The big red machine.
Right.
All right. Well, let's do a couple rapid fire ones, because I know we've got we can't have a Bulletproof podcast special one like this, especially with the poster that's behind my beloved colleague Chad Cruz.
Yeah.
Michael Dudikoff had a little Die Hard scenario going on with Brian James as his villain. This one from September 19th, 1995. Virtual Assassin, Cyberjack, however you know it.
Yeah.
Duty was the custodian.
The custodian named Duty, and he's right here. Here's his face right there.
Beautiful head of hair.
Wonderful head of hair. It's one of those movies that it's like it takes place in the not so distant future for whatever reason. I don't know, to make it seem unique, I think. But whether it's called Cyberjack or Virtual Assassin, I don't think either title really gives the credit that it's due, because it really is a fun Die Hard clone of a film. You've got Duty, who's a former cop working as a custodian, and of course, great villain Brian James thrown in there, who's like a absolute maniac in this movie. He just kind of like plays it however he desires. You know, they're like, here's the script, but you can read it if you want, or just go be a nut job, whatever you want to do. So Brian James is fantastic, and Duty gets to kind of use those skills that, you know, Steve James taught him on American Ninja and Avenging Force, you know, and kick some ass as a janitor. So it's pretty sweet.
Is janitor the most unassuming title of any of the heroes on our list? I have to assume so, right?
Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah,
it's got to be.
Yeah.
Is there a homeless guy one?
The cook in Under Siege would have been, you know, probably, but I think janitor is one step below the cook. So
the cook's got knives, right? Janitor's got like a mop stick. You know?
Right.
And even on a naval vessel, I would assume the cook has still gone through some naval training, so he can still go.
I mean, naval training.
Oh, here we go. And you know, this might be one of it probably is this Duty's best non-canon movie.
It's definitely up there. I mean, it is a good movie. There's some cool action scenes in it. It might not be his best one, but it's questionable. It's up there for sure for me. I've got a list. I can't remember what it is, but it kind of pales in comparison to the canon films that he did.
Oh yeah. I mean, obviously canon is peak Duty.
Right. It really was. But he does have a good head of hair, and he's like a functioning alcoholic, which I can appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Let's talk about another one. This one was Die Hard at a ski resort. Thomas Ian Griffith, very timely since he'll be returning to Cobra Kai here very soon.
Right.
Yeah, he's in the John McClane role again. You've got Christopher Plummer as our main villain in that one when these terrorists take over the ski resort. I remember, you know, and after this, I know you and I have both covered some of the Cracker Jack sequels, and they're nothing like a Die Hard scenario after that. No. So this one is actually worth watching. It's one I haven't seen since I probably reviewed it for the site, but a fun one nonetheless.
Another title that doesn't sell the movie very well. Like who's titling these movies? Some of these,
right? Well, yeah, because I don't think his name was like Jack Cracker Jack or anything. So yeah, I don't know.
It's not Cracker Jack, or it's not Cyber Jack. It's Cracker Jack. You know,
right? So we've had Cyber Jack, Cracker Jack, and
Pepper Jack cheese.
Why not?
I think the early 90s, that extreme sports, you know, like it was like new and exciting, and like, oh, they ski down these slopes. Oh my God, it's so wild. And like skateboarder movies and shit. So like I think it tried to jump on that craze. And I mean, it succeeded enough that it got multiple sequels, not starring the notorious TIG.
Right.
But yeah, they were still out there.
I mean, one of them starred Judge Reinhold.
Oof. Don't remind me.
All right, and the last movie on our list, again, I don't know that either of you gentlemen have seen this one, but it's a Jeff Wincott, Patrick Kilpatrick. It's Open Fire. It's Die Hard at a chemical plant. So there you go. So we got a little industrial action. That one came out January 3rd, 1995. And I think Chad would enjoy it because I believe Jeff Wincott plays a telephone repairman, and we see him at the beginning just working out in the hot sun, just jeans, no shirt on.
Yes.
I think his father works at the chemical. He goes to visit his father or something.
Some discount Bruce Springsteen playing in the background.
Maybe. And it kind of reminded me of the Pile Driver music video and a bit as well when I saw him out there.
I do love a good film where your hero is like an everyman, and you get to see him work, and it's so unrealistic. It's like he's like this plumber, but he's all like jacked and ripped, and he's just like fitting PVC together, and you know, it's like
just turning a wrench on a leaky faucet.
And that was probably it too, because I know he had said that in another movie. Maybe it may have been Mission Adjust. Like, listen, I've worked hard for this body. Kind of the Steve James theory. I've worked hard for this body. I don't care if it's in the script or not. This shirt's coming off at some point.
Right.
And I think he did it. So
right.
All right, well, there you have it. 12 of our favorite Die Hard clones.
So we forgot some.
Oh, yeah, there's plenty more, and you could certainly hit us up on Twitter at Bulletproof Pod or on Instagram and Facebook at Bulletproof Action if you have your favorite Die Hard clones that maybe we didn't cover. And it's certainly, we would love to talk to you about them. or maybe we didn't even think about them, and we would be like, oh,
it's also
crap.
a great format. I just want to see more of the format. So if there's any ones out there that I haven't watched, I got a few on this list. I want to check them out.
Right, exactly. So, and that's always appreciated, because I don't know about you guys, but I'm always looking for what's my next review going to be?
Right.
And it's always helpful when I don't have to think, when I don't have to think about it too hard, and just be like, oh, I'm going to watch this movie. So again, that's it. And again, you can check all this stuff out, bulletproofaction.com, something new each and every day. And just want to thank Geekscape for inviting us to be a part of this second annual Geekscape holiday live stream-tacular, again, to benefit big brothers and big sisters, and to celebrate the 15th anniversary of Geekscape. That's the main event here on this 15-hour live stream. There's going to be an actual live show from Los Angeles. Special guests. Are either of you guys flying out right after?
I was going to say, did you get your invite? I think mine got lost. I just moved recently. I'm sure it's getting forwarded here. I don't know if I'll make it in time.
There's going to be live music. It's really going to be something. So
I'm driving straight out.
Okay, I don't know if you're going to make it, but do your best. Do your best. So, all right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us for this very special video edition of the Bulletproof Podcast. Again, give to big brothers and big sisters if you can. And on behalf of everybody at Bulletproof Action, happy holidays. Enjoy this time with your friends, your family, your loved ones. It's a great time. It's the most wonderful time of year, they say. And join us again for another edition of the Bulletproof Podcast. So long, everybody.